This is John McQuaid with 8541 Tactical, and today we are going to start our Terminus Zeus rifle build. This is a really interesting project that I have been really anxious to get started for a little while now, and it is based on the Zeus action by Terminus. And the Zeus action is a really nice one-piece action. It has a 60-degree bolt throw and a 3-lug bolt here. So the Zeus kind of ticks all the boxes where I want it to tick the boxes. It has a one-piece rail that is built into the action. It has a Remington 700 trigger hanger, which allows us to use the TriggerTech Diamond trigger. Instead of the normal drive-through pins that you see on Remington style actions or Remington clone actions, the Zeus actually has threaded trigger pins, so you screw the trigger pins in to hold the trigger in. So that's really nice. You don't have to worry about them backing out. Some chassis have enough room that those pins can't actually back out inside the action. You never see it until you actually have a problem. It has a monolithic recoil lug here, so the recoil lug is one piece to the action, and it is really a beefy, well-built action. Now, it does have one really interesting feature on it, and the thing that really attracted my attention to it is it has a quick change barrel option for the action. Now, you can buy it either in standard configuration, where the tenon threads go all the way out to the shoulder, or you can buy it in this quick change barrel option, where the threads stop and then you have these set screws here. Now, Terminus says that this allows you to install the barrel by hand, twist it in hand tight, and then tighten those set screws and get very, very good consistency. So the whole purpose of this project is going to be to build a switch barrel around the Zeus action. And to that end, we contacted International Barrels, who are nice enough to send us a M24 Contour. This is a 24-inch barrel chambered in 6mm Creedmoor, and it has Terminus's thread or tenon on here with the smooth shoulder and the threads, and it is turned to Terminus's print that's available on their website. And so we should be able to just install this guy hand tight, and it should headspace perfectly. So that is really in itself an awesome thing, because that means with a fast 6mm tube, once this barrel burns out, I don't have to send the rifle off somewhere. I can just call IBI up and say, hey, we need a new barrel. They can send down a replacement barrel, and I can screw it in hand tight at the range if I wish, lock it in, and then get back to shooting. So really, though, to test this action, I contacted IBI and said, hey, can you send us 2 barrels? One in 6mm Creedmoor and one in 223. Now, I don't have the 223 barrel here yet. IBI is working on it, and I should have it here shortly. But it should be an exact duplicate of the 6mm Creedmoor barrel, except chambered in 223, and obviously with the correct twist rate for the 223. We're ordering a 1 in 7, so we have a pretty wide range of bullets that we'll be able to shoot. And the idea there is that with a 6mm barrel, you don't really want to send bullets down that tube unless you need to, because you are greatly shortening an already very short barrel life. So with a 223 barrel, if you're going to shoot a short range match, you can throw the 223 barrel on and go. Or if you're going to do barricade practice or anything else that doesn't really require the ballistic advantage that a 6mm allows, then you can go with the 223 barrel and save a ton of barrel life, save some powder, save some expense on bullets, all that stuff, and really go with a longer lasting option. Now, I've looked at this concept in the past, and with a lot of barrel systems in the past, to be able to switch barrels, you had to take off your scope, take the action out of the chassis, do all this other nonsense. And at that point, it's almost useless to even have a switch barrel because a barrel wrench and a barrel vise is not that much of an extra step to be able to install it if you have to strip the rifle completely down. And then when you put it back together, each one of those gaps, the scope, to the receiver into the action. All that stuff gives you an ability to lose your zero. So what I really want to see with this is swapping barrels with the Zeus action allows us to keep everything together. We should be able to keep the scope mounted, keep the receiver torqued into the action, and we're just unscrewing the barrel and screwing a new barrel in. So that should allow us to do it and really maintain our zero. Hopefully what we will see as we go through this and as we get out to the range and test it is that I will be able to roll in with the 6mm barrel, throw the 223 barrel on, dial on a shift that we will more than likely log into the data book, shoot, get done, dial off that shift, switch back to the 6mm barrel, and leave the range with a rifle that is zeroed and ready to go to the next match. Now, if we really luck out on this, then the barrels will be within a couple of clicks of each other on zero. That's almost too much to hope for, but we'll see when we go forward and when we get to the range test portion of this. So, really quickly, the components. We talked about the receiver, we talked about the barrel. Trigger Tech was nice enough to send out one of their Diamond 2-stage triggers for this build, so that will be going in. And of course, we are going to use a MDT ACC chassis. Now, our Mail Call Monday show is sponsored by MDT, and MDT did send us this chassis out. I've been shooting it on my primary match rifle for some time now, so I pulled it off of that rig, and it will be going into this. We also have a Hoptic USA quiver on the side, so those of you that are looking at wondering what this is, Hoptic sent this out to us. It is a really great option to keep 2 rounds at the ready on the side of the rifle without worrying about knocking them out or banging them up. And we're using the ACC chassis because this really is the pinnacle of MDT's competition chassis right now. You have a grip that is adjustable for trigger reach. There are companies that are making replacement grips of different sizes for the ACC chassis now. We have a fully adjustable buttstock, so I can dial my comb and my length of pull in. I can even adjust the height of the butt pad as to where it rides and the cant of the butt pad to really dial that in to what I want. And of course, we have the adjustable weight system, which is where the adjustable core competition chassis, where ACC gets its name. I do not have any weights in the channel right now, but you can put weights in the barrel channel. And then I have external weights that are just dropped into the M-LOK slots on the side of it. So that is what we're going to be using for our chassis. We'll be using MDT SkyPod for the bipod option on it. We have not come to a conclusion on what we are going to use for optics on this yet, but we will talk to you about that once we get everything put together. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and put this thing together.
Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
And that's really all there is to putting this thing together. It was just a handful of hand tools, dropped the action in the chassis, torqued it down, put the barrel on, and we are good to go. Now, a couple of things you guys noticed there. There's not really any torque tools needed to install the trigger. I used purple Loctite, although Terminus actually recommends blue Loctite. And we did not use a torque wrench on the barrel set screws. When we actually do the return to zero test on it, Terminus recommends hand tight or 10-inch pounds. So when we do the return to zero test out at the range, we will actually use a torque wrench. That way we know we are getting exactly what they recommend and that there's no user error creeping into the system. But overall, we just need to get a scope on this guy and then get it out to the range. Now, to clarify one point, I mentioned that we are going to do switch barrel from 6mm Creedmoor into 223. You'll notice during the video, we checked the headspace with 6.5 Creedmoor go and no-go gauges. The shoulder spacing on 6.5 Creedmoor and 6 Creedmoor is the same, much like you can use a 308 go and no-go gauge on a Remington 260. It's no big deal switching back and forth. But you will notice that bolt faces are different between 6.5 Creedmoor and 223. So the one somewhat slightly extra thing that we have to deal with the Terminus Zeus action is the bolt faces are not removable on the bolts, so we do have to swap out to a completely different bolt when we swap over the barrel. But again, these bolts are available through Terminus, so if you really want to switch between different bolt faces, it is not that big of a deal to pick up two different bolts. And we actually have both the old style bolt that has the flat cocking piece back here, and we have the new style bolt for the 223 that actually has the cocked indicator on the back of it. So kind of neat to look at both of those. The rifle went together really well. The action feels great. Terminus utilizes a roller cocking cam. So with 60-degree actions, that bolt lift after you drop the trigger, or after you drop the striker, the bolt lift can be very tough on some 60-degree actions if they don't take measures to reduce friction. Sometimes they just lighten up the firing pin spring, which can lead to all kinds of other issues. Terminus went ahead and put a roller cocking cam in there. So instead of having to drag the cocking cam up a metal ramp, there's actually a roller bearing on there to reduce friction going up that ramp. So that is kind of a neat feature. The other really neat feature I like about this action is the bolt release on the back here. So it does not utilize a trigger bolt release. It utilizes a side bolt release. And the orientation of the side bolt release is 90 degrees from what you normally see. Normally you will see bolt releases that pivot forward and back on a pin, and what happens is when you keep slamming that bolt to the rear, the bolt lug usually hits that bolt release and pins that bolt release back against the retaining pin. And time again, especially if you're a competitive shooter and you dry fire a lot, then you just beat that pin into submission. And I have very often seen those pins fail out at matches, and you'll see guys have to do things like tape rags or towels or stuff in the stock so that the bolt doesn't come out and hit them in the face. The Terminus bolt release, or the Zeus bolt release, is turned 90 degrees, so the pin goes forward and back in it, and that actually takes that impact force from the bolt lug onto the bolt stop and transfers it into the receiver instead of on that little metal pin. So I anticipate this is going to last quite a bit longer than some of the other designs I've seen. So really, I really like that idea. We'll see if over the life of the system we have any issues with it. You'll notice that I keep having the bolt flip in my hand. It's because we haven't Loctited the bolt knobs on these yet, so I can still screw and unscrew them by hand. So when I pick up a bolt, you'll see it drop like that. That's just because I haven't Loctited the bolt knobs on there. That's actually a pretty common thing if you have an action that has replaceable bolt knobs like that. You need to Loctite them on, otherwise you can spin them off during use. That's going to do it for our assembly video. Next video, we are going to actually get this guy out to the range, and we will do some accuracy testing and return to zero testing in switch barrel format, and we'll see if the Terminus Zeus actually delivers on its promises. If you guys want to be notified when that video is released, make sure you click the subscribe button and click the little bell icon next to it so you get a shout out in your inbox when that video hits. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below or send them to us on Facebook or Twitter. And until next time, get out and shoot.